What's going on, guys? This is Anthony with themovieblog.com, and I'm back here with another video. This time we're going to be doing another character explainer on Werewolf by Night. Werewolf by Night is a character from Marvel Comics, and this character is expected to make their debut in the upcoming TV show on Disney Plus, Moon Knight. The character is rumored to be played by Gael Garcia. The character comes from a time in the publisher's history when they weren't strictly a superhero comic book shop. Once upon a time, Marvel actually published books on horror, superheroes, and science fiction. The Jack Russell version of Werewolf by Night first appeared in Marvel Spotlight #2 and was based on an idea by Roy Thomas and was assigned to the creative team of Gerry, Conway, and Ploog. Now, the character and his origin is pretty much an exact adaptation of the traditional werewolf stories, with lycans being the term used for them, and they're having existing for centuries. I'm sure you know the term if you've seen any of the Underworld movies and you're familiar with some of the history if you've seen those films. It's almost like that. Jack's ability to transform into a werewolf under a full moon is a hereditary ability, having inherited this from his ancestor, Gregor Russoff. Gregor obtained the Darkhold scrolls and read the origins of lycanthropy in its pages. Gregor actually read these pages under the light of a full moon, imbuing him with the lycanthropy curse while reading the Darkhold, and he also took this as an opportunity to transcribe a copy in his own personal diary. Now, some of you guys know that the Darkhold is a book that's most famously associated with the Scarlet Witch. There are more ties to the Russoff family and the Scarlet Witch than that, with Gregor actually in his history having owned Wundagore Mountain, where the Scarlet Witch and Pietro were raised. He actually sold the mountain to Jonathan Drew and Herbert Wyndham. Herbert Wyndham might sound familiar if you're familiar with the character the High Evolutionary, aka the guy who created the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Now, this isn't the only history that werewolves have with Marvel characters. Believe it or not, it was in issue number 37 of Werewolf by Night that we actually saw the very first appearance of the character Moon Knight himself. What's interesting about this comic is that by the very first page, we already see Moon Knight putting a beat down on our friendly neighborhood werewolf. Now, werewolves have traditionally been shown to be super strong, fast, and bloodthirsty in mainstream media. This is also true in comics. Something they're also known to have is an incredible weakness to silver. Now, for those of you familiar with Moon Knight, you know where I'm going with this, because Moon Knight makes it his business to use weapons and armor made out of silver. So yeah, Moon Knight is essentially laying those hands on the werewolf, who also seems to be suffering from a broken arm. Something also interesting to note is that Jack doesn't always have full awareness and control of himself when he's transformed into a werewolf, and he often suffers memory lapses while in this form. This might sound familiar to those who are familiar with those old stories of Bruce Banner transforming into the Hulk and also having memory lapses. Now, we already established that Moon Knight is an incredible fighter in our video explaining him and Khonshu. He single-handedly took down the Avengers, including Thor. Moon Knight versus a werewolf would already be an interesting fight, but Moon Knight doing this while rocking silver accessories and under a full moon? Even the New York City onlookers watching the fight noted how one-sided things were going for the werewolf. We later learned that Marc Spector was hired as the mercenary that he is to track down and trap the werewolf. There was a company that not only hired Marc, but they also provided him with the Moon Knight costume and name to disguise himself while tracking down the werewolf. Marc continues pummeling the werewolf in present day, even surprising himself with how much punishment a werewolf can take while injured. The fight goes on and on until Moon Knight finally beats their werewolf unconscious and carries him away in a helicopter. Unfortunately for Moon Knight, the victory is short-lived. Before he can reach his destination, the werewolf wakes up ready for round 2, surprising Moon Knight after the long fight they just finished. They continue fighting in the air until they drop into a river below, and they continue fighting underwater. At this point, the werewolf is running on pure rage and adrenaline, having lost that earlier fight. The werewolf gives it his all, even using his broken arm. And he's actually able to overpower and seemingly get the upper hand on Moon Knight and goes for the kill. Until we realize how much time has passed. and the sun begins to rise. And the werewolf transforms back into Jack Russell, who is disoriented by the transformation, as well as the multiple blades in his skin from the fight with Moon Knight. Moon Knight doesn't waste any time at Oko's Jack before he can get a sense of what's going on. While unconscious, Marc brings Jack to his mysterious company that hired him. They're skeptical that Marc actually delivered the werewolf that they wanted. That is until the full moon hits and they see Jack's transformation into a werewolf for themselves. Now, as Marc is collecting his pay, he begins to have a moment where his conscience sets in, and he begins to question his decisions to capture the werewolf for this group. Moon Knight has a change of heart and decides to free Jack from the cage that he has imprisoned him in, and he releases him to attack his captors. Now, Marc assists in this fight that begins because the werewolf is wrecking shop on these people, but he doesn't want to miss out on any of the action for himself. Not long after, Moon Knight realizes that once everyone else is down, the werewolf would likely want another rematch after their earlier encounters, and he wisely chooses to escape before things pick up where they left off. The comic ends with Moon Knight going in one direction and our resident werewolf going another. It started subtly, it ends subtly, it's a fight, and we don't get any reconciliation or explanation about Moon Knight, where he's going, or how this reconciles with his meeting with Khonshu. Anyway, that's all I have for the origin of Werewolf by Night and his ties into Moon Knight. I don't quite understand again how things reconcile, but I'm curious to see where things go from here. If there is enough interest, maybe I'll go ahead and do the research in another video to see how these things square away. Anyway, what do you guys think of Werewolf by Night? Are you excited for this character to enter the MCU in the new Marvel show? Let me know what you think in the comments. And as usual, if you like this video and you want to see more, make sure you like and subscribe. That's all I have for this one. I'll check you guys later. Peace.